So we have understood how does variable length argument differs, and we have also seen if what if you take multiple input from a user and how does that differs in the previous videos, right? So and we have also understood about default position keyword. Now you see keyword variable length, that means it is having some prominent, right? You see keyword arguments, variable length arguments, and here we use keyword variable length argument where we can accept any number of keys and values, values provided by the user in the format of keys and values, like in dictionary format. Because unpacking argument plays a very key role because it depends only on user interest or programmer how he is trying to expect or how he is trying to relate some values. So basically, it depends when you try to fetch the values by using in the format of star arcs or double star quarks. When you see double star quarks, we relate only dictionary format, right? Keys and values. I'll be making it very simple. First, let's understand the importance of unpacking arguments. Then we'll see how does this double star quarks, keyword variable length arguments. It's very important because when you see star arcs, you see the result in the format of tuple. When you see double star quarks, you see in the format of a dictionary. You see, the definition here clearly I gave. A keyword variable length argument is an argument that can accept any number of values provided in the format of keys and values. Suppose you're entering multiple persons details and you're giving serial number, name, email ID, mobile number. You have so many cases. That's where you can use quarks, and it is very widely used in building applications because you need to write a class and make sure that it differs. So let's understand multiple things. First, let's go with understanding the importance of unpacking arguments. Then we'll go for use case of double star quarks. So first, let's understand how does this unpacking arguments happens in two ways. Basically, two ways is star arcs and double star quarks. Suppose a function is expecting positional arguments and you should pass the arguments in a format of list or tuple. That means, let's take an example. So my function name is define. Again, I give around like this printer. My function name is printer, and I pass multiple positional arguments. Like I should give A, B, C, D, E. That means I should take multiple inputs in function called A, B, C, D, E. And what do I do is I just write print. I'm not using any logic over there. I just relying only how to print them. Print of A, B, C, D, E. And when you call the function, what you try to do is you try to pass the values in the format of a list. So list is equal to 1452. I give my name Saket, and where you take one other thing like tuple, tup is equal to, you just pass A, B, and 12, 4, 5. But it should be 5, right? 8. So now this should match with the function because A, B, C, D 5 arguments and 5 arguments in the format of list and tuple, where our function is expecting these positional arguments should be passed in the format of list or tuple. Now you call the function printer of, what do? You just try to give, you just need to make sure that if you give A, B, C, D, how does that will fetch? No, right? You should make sure by using star. That's where we have understood variable length arguments. You first fetch the result. When you execute this, what happens? 1452 Saket clearly. I'll run once again because when you go for the execution, the output goes down. So 1452 Saket, you can clearly understand the importance of star here. What happens if you give the function call and ask? See, it is clearly mentioning A, B, C, D, E. You don't need to give. Suppose if you pass by your own, how do you pass a tuple over here? There you can use star tup. That's where variable length arguments play a very key role. A, B, 12, 40. You're unpacking the values. That's it. This is first case. What if your function is expecting some keyword arguments? That means name should matter, price should matter, or subject should matter. In such a case, and the argument should be passed in the format of dictionary. That's where you understand the importance of keyword variable length arguments. That is mandatory. Keyword variable length arguments, where you use double star quarks, or you can name anything. It's not only double star quarks, you can give double star B or double star Z, whatever it is. It's up to user interest. So what do? Is I just create a function with some values. I just give my details. So I'll write my function name as details only. So define details of, I'll pass my name and my age. So name is equal to, I just need to relate my name is Saket, and I define my age is equal to 27. Okay. So this is my values I am passing along with keywords. And what does you want to fetch them? You want to fetch them before you are trying to unpack the values, right? In such cases, we need to just make sure, if you give print of name, print of age, you get Saket and 27 directly. But I don't want to rely in that way. I'll just try to unpack the values from the dictionary, because you don't expect the same person having the same things, right? So I just do like this, because if you call the function, right, what happens if you call the function directly when you save and execute? Saket and 27. No worries, because already you gave both as default arguments, and if you pass anything, you can just make sure already those values are being mentioned. But I don't do in this way. What do I do is I create one more dictionary where I pass some other person details. Some other person name should be Jane, and what do? I just mention age, and age is 26. Okay. Now what do I do? How do I fetch the result? Suppose if I try to fetch this thing with the related to the function, how do I align that? You can directly call the function name details of, see, it is asking name and Saket. Suppose if you give star D, what happens? How can you unpack from a dictionary? When you just run this, automatically you get, see, name age is not defined. Why we are getting age is not defined? So make sure how we are relying them, how we are trying to define those values, and how we are trying to fetch those results. It plays a very key role. So name is Jane and age is 26, because here age is not mentioned as a string, because it's, when you're defining a dictionary, be very careful, right? So when you execute this, now you don't get any error, you're getting name and age, because you are fetching keys only. I want the values. That's where you go for usage of double star D. That means if you want to fetch the pair of values, you give dot values function. If you want keys, you give dot keys. But here you just give double star D, because this is star args, it is fetching you only keys. Star args is fetching you keys, and when you go for double star args, it will fetch you the values. That's where double star args, or we can make it as quarks, KWARGS. That's very, very important, because we rely so many applications on this. So just try to understand it very simple. So double star D, when you execute this, you can clearly understand the values out of it, Jane and 26. So this is how we can make use of keyword variable length arguments. So with this, what I'll do is, I'll just try to relate how does we can use this, because I hope you got the point of understanding star and double star. When you go for star, you can try to unpack the values, whether it is a list or tuple. When you go for double star, if you have any related like pairs, keywords, and you want to fetch those details, you can use double star. If you wanted to match with the position, multiple arguments, you can use variable length arguments. So keyword variable length arguments plays a very key role when you're trying to fetch the keywords, and the arguments are to be passed in dictionary. When you try to use keywords and arguments are to be passed in dictionary, are to be passed in dictionary, are to be passed are in a dictionary. So the best option is use double star quarks. That's a very best usage. You can use the same logic when you relate the concept in classes or anything, right? Now let's take one more use case and understand how does this double star quarks can be used. So I define one more function related to the place vjwda, and I give a comma double star b, because you are trying to take multiple values. So I just define the description as understanding keyword variable length arguments as my description. You can write your own description, but making docstring is very, very important, so that you get habituated and you write it continuously. So now what do is, I just try to take, because I want to fetch each and every detail, right? So here double star b, obviously quarks nothing but dictionary format. So keys and values. So you take two arguments. So for C comma D, that is two variables in the sequence. What is the sequence over here? You take B. I'll just make it, once I relate it, I'll just make sure how does the errors can be resolved. So for C comma D in B, when you take B, B will be a dictionary over there, and you can also check the type of B. So print of type of B, where you'll understand once we execute this. So I just wanted to see print of, I'll only give, so print of key is equal to curly braces and dot format of C, close it, and use one more print. So print of, you try to take the value, so value is equal to curly brace dot format, you can use anything, it's up to user interest. So dot format of D. Okay, fine. Now let's try to call the function and just try to understand how does this is related, then it will be easier for you. So I just call the function vjwda and I pass my first number and I give my name. So name is equal to Saket, and I just mention one more argument because here I am just trying to relate this. I just give age is equal to 26 or 27. Yeah. Now when you save and execute, what happens? You just understand now. You see, invalid syntax, the first thing is, why it is invalid syntax, or where did we go wrong? First, let me make it simple, right? Because we are not following the brace here. Space is being followed, but the brace is not failed. That's where you should cross check. Okay, that's the reason it will point it here, because it is expecting the brace to be closed. Fine. So save, and when you execute this, see, you got the class as dictionary, the first print, but when you see the result, the output screen, value error, too many values to unpack, expected 2 because you gave B. How does it will unpack? It is wrong, right? So if you are having multiple things into a dictionary, how do you fetch each and every pair? With the format of item. So this is very, very important. When you take up items here, so obviously you'll understand the difference. See, the class is dictionary and the key is name. What is the value? Saket. And key is age. What is the value? 27. That is the main difference when you take up items here, right? That is the reason when we are discussing about dictionary, I clearly mentioned this plays a very key role. Suppose if you want only specifically keys, what you can do? Just comment this line, and for C in B dot keys, you can take only keys, right? It's up to user logic. How does he can make it? It's up to you. Then what you can take, if you don't want to just take this, just keep it common. So you only get keys. When you execute this, you only get keys, name, keys, age. And even if you only want values, you can just give B dot values. It's up to user logic. How does he fetch those things? So double star quarks will make sure that you use keywords and you just make sure that values are passed in the format of dictionary. When you go for star args, you can mention the positional arguments and you're trying to fetch the values in the format of list and tuple. So this plays a very, very key role. So generally, if you are not aware of this, if you are being confused, just once revise the concept of dictionaries, because this plays a very key role. You are passing some variable control values in the sequence. That sequence is dictionary. How do you unpack the values? You are mentioning both C and D because you are having key and value. That's where we found the difference. When you execute this, you can clearly go ahead. See, key is name, value is Saket, key is age, value is 27. How many number of values you may pass here? Everything you can just make it very simple. Suppose you give gender is M. So how many number of arguments you may pass? You can get the same result. So in that way, the same thing happens in the web format, because we relate it as dictionary. In the web format, it is JSON format. That's where JavaScript object notation, everything is correlated. So that's it. So this is very, very important. So when you relate this double star, just think of dictionary. How do you have keys and values? When you go for star args, you only relate in the format of how you are trying to unpack the values within a tuple or list. So that is very, very useful. So these are the type of arguments. So keyword, position, default, variable length, keyword variable length. So based on these properties, we'll not use everything at a time. So depending on problem statement, our mind should tell which one to use.